Thanks for being here. Subscribe to Cheating Stories Best, so you don't miss new stories.
The sound of my pen scratching against paper filled the otherwise silent room as I made the final adjustments to the blueprint spread before me. I had been at it for hours, perfecting every line, every angle. The clock on my desk read 2:37 a.m., but time held little meaning when I was absorbed in my work. I am Felix Marlowe, a successful architect in my 40s. At least, that is what people say. Success is relative, I suppose. I built a career on precision and control, traits that have served me well in crafting structures that stand the test of time. If only relationships were as easy to blueprint and construct. A soft creak from the hallway caught my attention. Mila, my 11-year-old daughter, appeared in the doorway, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. "Daddy, why are you still up?" I set down my pen and gestured for her to come closer. "Just finishing up some work, sweetheart. What are you doing out of bed?" She climbed onto my lap, her warmth a stark contrast to the cold emptiness I had been feeling. "I had a bad dream. Can I stay with you for a bit?" I nodded. Mila was the one pure thing in my life, untouched by the growing tension that threatened to tear apart the carefully constructed facade of our family. "Where's Mom?" Mila asked, her voice muffled against my chest. I glanced at the clock again. 2:41 a.m. She is at a work event. Fashion never sleeps, you know. The lie tasted bitter on my tongue. Lena, my wife of 15 years, was indeed at a work event. But the frequency of these late-night engagements had been increasing, and with them, my suspicions. Lena was a striking woman, a fashion designer whose star was rapidly rising. At 35, she was in her prime, both personally and professionally. I had watched her career flourish over the past few years, a stark contrast to my own plateau. The resentment I felt was a constant companion, one I tried desperately to ignore. As I held Mila, my mind wandered. Earlier that evening, Lena had breezed out the door in a whirlwind of perfume and stilettos, barely sparing me a glance. "Do not wait up, darling," she had called over her shoulder. "Big presentation tomorrow. I will be working late." I had nodded, forcing a smile. "Good luck," I had replied, the words hollow even to my own ears. Now, hours later, I found myself questioning every interaction, every missed call, every secretive glance. The doubts that had been gnawing at the edges of my mind were growing stronger, threatening to consume me. "Daddy?" Mila's voice pulled me from my thoughts. "Can we have pancakes for breakfast?" I smiled, grateful for the distraction. "Of course, sweetheart. Now, let us get you back to bed." As I tucked Mila in, I heard the faint sound of a car pulling into the driveway. Lena was home. I kissed Mila's forehead and quietly closed her door before making my way downstairs. Lena stumbled through the front door, her cheeks flushed, her eyes bright. She startled when she saw me standing at the foot of the stairs. "Felix, I thought you would be asleep by now." I shrugged, keeping my voice neutral. "Had some work to finish up." "How was your event?" She waved her hand dismissively, dropping her purse on the entryway table. "Oh, you know how these things are, lots of schmoozing, lots of champagne." I am exhausted. I watched as she kicked off her heels, noting the slight sway in her stance. "You should get some rest. Mila wants pancakes for breakfast." Lena's eyes widened slightly. "Oh, I have an early meeting. I will not be able to join you." I nodded, unsurprised. "Of course. Good night, Lena." As I turned to head back upstairs, Lena called out, "Felix, is everything okay?" I paused, my hand on the banister. For a moment, I considered confronting her, demanding answers to the questions that plagued me. Instead, I forced another smile. "Everything is fine. Just tired. Good night." I lay awake in bed, listening to Lena's movements in the bathroom, the sound of running water, the clink of bottles, the rustle of fabric. Each noise felt amplified, a reminder of the growing distance between us. As Lena slipped into bed beside me, I kept my eyes closed, feigning sleep. She did not reach out to touch me, and I did not move to embrace her. We lay there, inches apart, yet separated by an ocean of unspoken words and mounting suspicions. The weeks following that sleepless night blurred together in a haze of doubt and barely contained anger. I threw myself into my work, burying my unease under piles of blueprints and back-to-back meetings. But even as I drafted perfect structures on paper, I could not ignore the cracks forming in the foundation of my own life. It was Mila who unknowingly provided the catalyst that turned my suspicions into cold, hard reality. We were having dinner, just the two of us. Lena was away on what she claimed was a business trip. Mila was chattering away about her day at school when she dropped the bombshell. "Oh, And Daddy, I saw Mom yesterday at the park. She was with a man I did not know. I waved, but I do not think she saw me. The fork I was holding clattered onto my plate. What man, sweetheart? What did he look like? Mila shrugged, oblivious to the turmoil her words had unleashed. I do not know. Tall, I guess. They were laughing a lot. I forced a smile, not wanting to alarm her. I am sure it was just a work colleague, honey. Eat your vegetables. But inside, I was seething. Lena was supposed to be 2 states away, closing a deal with a major retailer. The lie was so blatant, so careless, it made my blood boil. Yet even as anger coursed through me, a part of me, the architect, the planner, began to formulate a strategy. That night, after Mila was asleep, I made a call to Reed Lawson. He and I had gone to college together, before he went into cybersecurity and I went into architecture. We had not spoken in years. But I knew he owed me a favor. The phone rang twice before he answered. Felix? It has been a while. Reed, I need your help with something. There was a pause. That sounds serious. It is. I need you to monitor some communications for me. Another pause. My wife's, to be specific. Silence stretched on the other end. Felix, that is a pretty serious request. Reed, please. I would not ask if it was not important. A long sigh. Send me what you have. Then, a warning. But Felix, be prepared. You might not like what you find. I thanked him and hung up, feeling a mixture of relief and dread. The wheels were in motion now. There was no turning back. Over the next few weeks, I became a stranger in my own life. I watched Lena with new eyes, noting every secretive glance at her phone, every unexplained absence. She grew more distant, often missing family dinners and coming home late, reeking of expensive cologne that was not mine. Reed's reports started trickling in, encrypted messages, carefully worded emails, all pointing to one name. Diego Liar. A photographer. Their conversations were maddeningly. They spoke of future plans, next steps, whispered words of anticipation. I threw myself into my work with renewed vigor, channeling my turmoil into complex designs and ambitious projects. To the outside world, I was the picture of calm efficiency. But inside, I was unraveling. One night, as I sat in my home office, poring over Reed's latest report, I caught sight of my reflection in the window. The man staring back at me was a stranger. Sunken eyes. Jaw clenched. A permanent furrow etched between his brows. For a moment, I hardly recognized myself. Is this what I have become? I wondered. A man reduced to spying on his own wife? But then I remembered Mila's innocent words. Lena's careless lies. No, this was not about me anymore. This was about protecting what was mine. My daughter. My assets. My life. With newfound determination, I began to plan my next move. Lena had made her choice. Now, it was time for me to make mine. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. I stared at the email from Reed, my hand shaking slightly as I scrolled through the details of his latest findings. Diego Liar was not just Lena's lover. He was a con artist, a charming parasite who had latched onto my wife for her connections and her money. And Lena, my beautiful, ambitious Lena, had fallen for it. Hook, line, and sinker. According to Reed's investigation, Diego was already seeing another woman behind Lena's back, a wealthy art dealer named Vivian Calloway. The realization that Lena was as much a pawn in Diego's game as I had been in hers left a bitter taste in my mouth. But the real kicker came when I dug deeper into our finances. Lena had invested a significant portion of our savings into a shady art gallery deal with Diego, putting our financial future, and Mila's, at risk. The anger that had been simmering for weeks now reached a boiling point. I picked up my phone, my finger hovering over Lena's number. How easy it would be to confront her now, to unleash all the hurt and betrayal I had been holding back. But the architect in me, the planner, knew better. This required a calculated approach. Instead, I called Nora Kinney, the top divorce lawyer in the city. Her voice was crisp and professional when she answered. Felix Marlowe, I have been expecting your call. I blinked, taken aback. You have? She chuckled, a sound devoid of humor. Let us just say I have a knack for spotting troubled marriages. What can I do for you, Mr. Marlowe? I took a deep breath. I need to initiate divorce proceedings. Quietly. I see, Nora replied. And I assume you want to protect your assets? Absolutely. My wife has been less than faithful with both our marriage and our finances. Understood, she said smoothly. My advice? Gather as much evidence as you can. Financial mismanagement, infidelity, anything that paints her in a bad light. And Felix? Yes? Play the long game. Bide your time until the moment of maximum impact. I nodded, even though she could not see me. I understand. Thank you, Nora. As I hung up, a strange sense of calm washed over me. The die was cast. There was no going back now. That evening, as Lena breezed in late once again, I watched her with new eyes. She was still beautiful, still the woman I had fallen in love with all those years ago. But now, I saw the cracks in her facade, the slight nervousness in her smile, the way her eyes darted around the room, never quite meeting mine. "How was your day, darling?" she asked, her voice overly bright. I shrugged, keeping my face carefully neutral. "Same as always. Yours?" "Oh, busy." She waved her hand dismissively. "I'm going to take a shower before dinner." I nodded. "Go ahead, Lena. Watch away the lies." The next morning, I woke before dawn and headed to the gym. It was time for a change. Time to shed the complacent, trusting man I had been. As I pushed my body to its limits, I felt a new strength building, not just physically, but mentally. And that was where I met Amara. She was a force of nature, all lean muscle and steely determination. As she corrected my form, her dark eyes seemed to see right through me. "You are carrying a lot of anger," she observed bluntly. "Want to talk about it?" I hesitated, surprised by her directness. It is complicated." Amara nodded, understanding flickering in her gaze. "It usually is. But remember this, pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. You choose how to respond to what life throws at you." Her words struck a chord, resonating deep inside me. As I left the gym that day, I felt something shift. Subtle, but significant. I was no longer just Felix Marlowe, the betrayed husband. I was becoming someone new, someone stronger. That night, as I lay in bed beside Lena, our bodies close, but our hearts miles apart, I made a silent vow. I would not be broken by this betrayal. I would use it, harness it, rebuild myself into someone better, stronger, more resilient. Let Lena have her affair, her risky investments, her web of lies. I would bide my time, gather evidence, build my case. And when the moment was right, I would strike. Swiftly, decisively, leaving no room for doubt or second chances. As I drifted off to sleep, Amara's words echoed in my mind. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. I chose not to suffer. Instead, I would rise from the ashes of this betrayal phoenix-like, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The morning sun filtered through the blinds, casting long shadows across our bedroom. I lay there, perfectly still, listening to Lena's soft breathing beside me. Once, that sound had been a comfort. Now, it set my teeth on edge. I felt the mattress shift as Lena stirred. "Felix?" Her voice was groggy, laced with an uncertainty that was becoming all too familiar. "Are you awake?" I considered feigning sleep, but decided against it. "Yes," I replied, my voice carefully neutral. She rolled towards me, her hand reaching out to touch my arm. I fought the urge to flinch away. "I have been thinking," she said, tracing absent patterns on my skin. "We should take a trip. Just the three of us, you, me, and Mila. Like we used to." I turned to look at her, taking in the hopeful expression on her face. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "A trip?" I echoed evenly. "Yes." Lena sat up, her enthusiasm growing. "We could go to that beach house we used to rent. Remember how much Mila loved building sandcastles?" I sat up too, keeping a careful distance between us. "I do not know, Lena. Work is pretty busy right now." Her face fell, but she rallied quickly. "Come on, Felix. It will be good for us. For our family." I watched as she leaned in, her intentions clear. Once, I would have met her halfway. Now, I felt nothing. Only cold detachment. To make them wonder about the woman they thought they knew. Lena noticed, of course. How could she not? The invitations to exclusive events began to dry up. The phone that once buzzed incessantly with calls and messages grew eerily silent. I watched as she checked it obsessively, her brow furrowed in confusion and growing panic. "Felix," she said one evening, her voice trembling slightly. "Have you heard anything strange about me?" I looked up from my blueprints, the picture of innocence. "Strange? What do you mean?" She wrung her hands, a nervous habit I had not seen in years. "I do not know. People are acting different, distant. I cannot explain it." I set down my pen, giving her my full attention. "I am sure it is nothing, Lena. You know how fickle the fashion world can be." She nodded, but did not look convinced. "Maybe you are right. It is probably nothing." But it was not nothing. and we both knew it. The isolation grew, day by day. I watched as Lena's friends began to pull away, making excuses to avoid her calls, canceling plans at the last minute. Her professional contacts became harder to reach, her projects put on hold for reasons that were never quite explained. Through it all, I maintained my facade, the supportive husband, concerned but not overly so. Inside, though, I was satisfied. The architect in me appreciated the slow, methodical dismantling of Lena's life. It was like watching a building collapse in slow motion, each support beam giving way one by one. The final blow came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was in my home office when I heard the front door slam, followed by the rapid click of Lena's heels across the hardwood floor. She burst into the room, her face pale, her eyes wild. "Felix," she gasped. "I need to talk to you. It is important." I leaned back in my chair, gesturing for her to continue. "What is wrong, Lena?" She collapsed into the chair across from me, her usual grace abandoned. "It is Diego. The art gallery project. It has gone wrong. All the money, our money, it is gone." I raised an eyebrow, the picture of surprise. "Gone? What do you mean, gone?" Her words tumbled out in a rush, a confession long overdue. She told me about the affair, about Diego's promises of love and fortune. She told me about the investment, the risk she had taken with our savings. And finally, she told me about Diego's betrayal, how he had disappeared, taking the money and leaving her to face the consequences. As she spoke, I felt a strange sense of detachment. It was as if I was watching a play, observing the drama unfold from a safe distance. When she finished, her face streaked with tears, I simply nodded. "I see," I said, my voice calm and measured. "And what do you want me to do about it, Lena?" She looked at me, shock replacing the desperation in her eyes. "Felix, we have lost everything. Do you not understand?" I stood up slowly, walking around the desk to stand in front of her. "No, Lena, you have lost everything. Your lover, your money, your reputation." I met her stunned gaze, my voice devoid of emotion. "You broke it. Now, you live in the ruins." The color drained from her face as the full impact of my words hit her. "Felix, what are you saying?" Without a word, I reached into my desk drawer and pulled out a thick envelope. I handed it to her, watching as she opened it with trembling hands. Her eyes widened as she scanned the contents. How long have you known?" she whispered. "Long enough," I replied. "Long enough to protect myself. And Mila." She flipped through the divorce papers, her breath hitching when she reached the final page. "You will find the terms are quite clear," I continued. "You get nothing, Lena, and I am filing for full custody of our daughter." Her face contorted with rage and despair. "You cannot do this. I will fight you, Felix. I will tell everyone what you have done." I smiled, a cold, humorless expression. "Go ahead. Tell them. Tell them how you betrayed your husband, how you gambled away our savings on your lover's schemes." I stepped back, letting my words sink in. I am sure they will be very sympathetic. The fight drained out of her, replaced by bone-deep weariness. For a brief moment, I felt a twinge of something, regret, pity. I pushed it aside. There was no room for weakness now. "You have until the end of the week to move out," I said, turning back to my desk. "I suggest you start packing." As Lena stumbled out of the room, her sobs echoing through the house, I sat back down at my desk. I had work to do, a life to rebuild, a daughter to protect. The weeks following Lena's departure were surprisingly quiet. I had expected a fight, a messy, drawn-out battle over assets and custody. Instead, Lena seemed to have retreated entirely, licking her wounds in private. I should have known it would not last. It was a crisp autumn morning when I received a call from Reed. His voice was tense. "Urgent. Felix, we have got a problem. Diego is back in town." My stomach dropped, even as my mind raced to analyze this new development. "What do you mean, he is back? I thought he disappeared with the money." Reed sighed. "Apparently, things did not go as planned with that art dealer, Vivian. He is broke, desperate, and he has reached out to Lena." I closed my eyes, pinching the bridge of my nose. Of course, Diego would come crawling back now, looking for one last score. And Lena, broken and desperate for validation, would welcome him with open arms. "What are they planning?" I asked, though I already had a sinking feeling I knew the answer. "From what we can gather, Diego has pitched her some new scheme, another art venture. Supposedly foolproof this time." I let out a humorless laugh. "And let me guess, he needs more. He needs her to get money from me." "Got it in one," Reed confirmed. "Felix, What do you want to do? I leaned back in my chair, considering my options. I could let this play out, watch as Lena dug herself even deeper. But something in me rebelled at the thought. This had gone on long enough. Get me everything you can on Diego's illegal activities, I said, my voice hard. Every shady deal. Every fraudulent transaction. I want it all. You got it, Reed replied. What are you planning? I smiled. I am going to end this. Once and for all. And I did. The next few days were a flurry of activity. Reed worked tirelessly, compiling a damning dossier on Diego's criminal enterprises. I, in turn, carefully arranged for this information to find its way into the hands of the proper authorities. It was almost anticlimactic when it happened. A brief news item, tucked away in the local paper. Local artist arrested on fraud charges. Diego's smug face stared out from the grainy photograph, his charm unable to save him now. Once, those tears would have moved me. I would have rushed to her side, eager to play the hero. But now, I felt nothing but a cold, hard resolve. Lena, I interrupted her tearful monologue. Stop. Just stop. She fell silent, likely shocked by the steel in my voice. I am not going to help you, I continued, each word carefully measured. Not this time. Not ever again. But, Felix, no, Lena, you made your choices. You chose Diego over me, over our family. You chose to gamble with our savings, to lie, to cheat. And now, you are facing the consequences of those choices. I could almost see her flinch at my words, harsh, but true. What about Mila? She whispered, playing her last card. She needs her mother. For a moment, I felt a flicker of doubt. But then I remembered the pain in Mila's eyes when Lena had walked out. The confusion as she tried to understand why Mommy was not coming home. Mila will always know you are her mother, Lena. But right now, what she needs is stability, safety. And that is what I am going to give her. Felix, please. Her voice was barely audible now. I have nothing left. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I had to say next. I know, Lena, and I am sorry for that. I truly am. But this is where our paths diverge. I cannot save you anymore. I will not. A long silence stretched between us. When Lena finally spoke again, her voice was hollow, defeated. I understand. Goodbye, Felix. The line went dead, and I sat there in the dark, the phone still pressed to my ear. It was over. Really, truly, over. As I set the phone down, I noticed a small figure in the doorway. Mila stood there, her stuffed rabbit clutched tightly to her chest. Daddy? She asked, her voice small and uncertain. Was that Mommy? I held out my arms, and she rushed into them, burying her face in my chest. Yes, sweetheart. It was. Is she coming home? I stroked her hair, my heart aching for the innocence in her voice. No, honey. Mommy is not coming home. But I want you to remember something, okay? Your mom loves you very much. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, big mistakes. But that does not change how much they love their children. Mila nodded against my chest, and I felt her tears soaking through my shirt. I held her tighter, vowing silently to protect her from the storm that was yet to come. As Mila's breathing evened out, signaling she had fallen asleep, I gazed out the window at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Lena was facing the ruins of her life. And Diego? His fate was about to be sealed. The trial had been swift. The evidence, overwhelming. I sat in the back of the courtroom, watching as Diego's charm and arrogance crumbled in the face of cold, hard facts. The prosecution painted a damning picture. Fraud. Embezzlement. A web of lies that had ensnared not just Lena, but countless others. I had expected to feel satisfaction as the verdict was read. Guilty. On all counts. Instead, I felt empty. As if the final piece of a long, complicated puzzle had finally fallen into place. But what I did not expect was Diego's last act of betrayal. As he was led away in handcuffs, he turned to the judge, his face a mask of desperation. Wait, he called out. I have information about Lena Marlowe. She was involved in all of this. She knew everything. The courtroom erupted into chaos. I sat there, stunned, as Diego spilled every detail of Lena's involvement. By the time he was done, Lena's fate was sealed. She would face her own trial, her own reckoning. As I left the courthouse, I caught a glimpse of Lena being led away by police officers. Our eyes met for a brief moment. In hers, I saw a mixture of fear, regret, and something else. Acceptance. She gave me a small nod, as if to say, it is over. You win. But I did not feel like a winner. Yet, as I stepped into the sunlight, I felt something I had not in a long time. Hope. Hope for a future unburdened by lies and betrayal. Hope for a new beginning. The alarm clock's insistent beeping pulled me from sleep. 5:30 a.m. Once, I would have groaned, hitting the snooze button and burrowing deeper under the covers. But now, I welcomed the early hour. I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Mila, who had crawled in sometime during the night. Another nightmare, no doubt. They were becoming less frequent. But still, they persisted. The house was quiet as I made my way to the kitchen, the soft padding of my bare feet the only sound. I started the coffee machine and leaned against the counter, watching as the first rays of sunlight filtered through the windows. So much had changed in the past year. The divorce was finalized. The dust had settled. Lena was gone, serving time for her role in Diego's schemes. I made sure Mila could visit her. Kept the lines of communication open. It was not easy, but it was necessary, for Mila's sake. The coffee machine beeped, pulling me from my thoughts. As I poured myself a cup, I heard the soft thud of footsteps on the stairs. "Daddy?" Mila's voice was still thick with sleep. "You were up early." I smiled, pulling her into a one-armed hug. "Big day today, remember? New project presentation." Her eyes lit up. "Oh yeah. Can I come see your building when it is done?" "Of course, sweetheart. You will be my VIP guest at the grand opening." As I dropped Mila off at school and headed to the office, my mind raced with last-minute details. This project was my biggest yet, a sustainable, mixed-use development that would revitalize a neglected part of the city. Ambitious. Risky, even. But I was ready for the challenge. As I walked into the conference room, I caught sight of my reflection in the glass. The man staring back at me was a far cry from the broken, betrayed husband of a year ago. Shoulders straight, jaw set with determination. I looked confident, strong. The presentation went off without a hitch. As I fielded questions from investors, I felt a surge of pride. This was what I was meant to do. Create, build, leave my mark on the world. That night, I stood on the balcony of our new home, a glass of whiskey in hand. The city sprawled before me, a twinkling tapestry of lights and shadows. Somewhere out there, my next project was waiting to take shape. Somewhere out there, countless stories like mine were unfolding. Some lives fall apart. Others are rebuilt stronger. I chose the latter. And as I turned to go back inside, into the warmth of the home I had created, I felt something settle deep within me. Peace.